For whatever reason, when my family moved from Rexburg, Idaho to Los Angeles, in the transition, my parents somehow got a little bit lost from attendance at church. We were devout members of the LDS Church. Our ancestors were Mormon pioneers. Our ancestors had settled the Rexburg area. And so we were very involved in the LDS Church. But somehow when we came to Los Angeles, I think we might have gotten a little bit lost. And so I remember when I was young that we didn't really always go to church on Sunday. So back then you had priesthood meeting in the early morning, and then you came back for Sunday school, and then you went home and you came back for sacrament meeting at night. So I remember a lot of times that we didn't go to church at all, and I remember many times that we would go in the morning, but we would not go back in the afternoon. So when I was young, I didn't think much of that. In fact, I thought it was kind of great because I could go play with my friends and everything on Sunday, and when you're a kid, that's kind of what you want to do. So my older sisters, especially my older sister Susan, she wanted to be active in the Young Women's Program, and so she was very pushing to get active in the church program. So I remember we had a home teacher. I didn't know he was a home teacher at the time, and I think his name was Brother West. And he would come to our house. I remember he had kind of reddish hair, and he would come to our house every month, and he was our home teacher. I didn't really know what a home teacher was, but he would come to our house, and he would talk with us, and we'd all sit in the living room and visit. And I always felt really good when Brother West came, and he would always bring these young men who were, probably 10 years older than I was. I was probably 6 or 7 at the time. And I thought they were really cool. They would come and sit at our house, and and so I loved it when the home teachers came. And I didn't really know why. I didn't know why they were there, but I knew I loved it when they came. So he was very devoted in coming and visiting with us every month. And my dad was not really active in the church and hadn't been to the temple in many years. My mom was believed in the church, but for some reason, we'd kind of gone into inactivity. So over time, they would come and they present these lessons, and I noticed that my dad started going to church more. At first, I didn't like this, to tell you the truth, but over time, pretty soon I noticed we were at the church all the time, it seemed to be. So my sisters got involved in the Young Women's Program, and I remember the first day that I went to primary, I thought it was kind of a goofy thing. They wanted me to wear this little green bandolo thing, and I thought that was kind of nuts. And I remember a lady telling me that I had to hold still, that I couldn't jump around. So I kind of decided I didn't ever want to go to primary anymore. And so I told my mom, I'm not coming back here. And she said, no, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go to church from now on, and we're going to be active in the church. And so I saw my dad go from being inactive in the church. I remember they drank coffee, and from not drinking coffee anymore to us going to church every Sunday. And then my father got called to be a stake missionary, and he would practice teaching the missionary discussions to us with a flannel board. And then pretty soon he got called to be the stake mission president, which was, a surprise. So suddenly we had all these young missionaries coming and hanging out at our house all the time, and they were just delightful guys. They would come and play catch with me with a football in the yard, and they were from Utah and Idaho, and they were just delightful people who treated me so well. And I always felt so good when they came to my house. That led to my father being called to being a counselor in the bishopric, and then calling to be the bishop of our ward, and then being called eventually to be a counselor in the stake presidency. So both of my sisters were married to returned missionaries in the temple, and I was married in the temple, and so was my younger brother. And we went from being lost to being very active in our religion, and in particularly the Mormon religion. And I saw a big change that happened in my father during that time. I didn't really know his background that much at that time, but I noticed that he became much more kind, and he became much more spiritual in the things that he did and say. So I really credit that a lot to that home teacher, Brother West, if that was his name. If he's out there, I love you, man, because you sacrificed your time to come to the home of a guy who wasn't going to church and just stayed with us. I'm sure there were times that he thought, why am I wasting my time doing this, because they're not active in the church. But eventually over time, he had a big influence on our life and a big influence on our family. And so I appreciate that there was somebody who was looking out for us, looking out for this little lost family from Rexburg, Idaho, and was willing to help us to get back on track for what we wanted in our lives.